"You're too poor to shop here," sneers a manager as he humiliates a single mom in front of her little girl. But when she flashes an FBI badge, a hidden world of danger explodes into view. And the question is, can a mother's love and faith stop the evil that threatens her family? Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you are watching from today. The early morning sun cast long shadows across the parking lot as Claire Matthews guided her old Honda into a space at Milton's department store. The gentle rumble of the engine died away, leaving a peaceful quiet broken only by the click of seatbelts being unbuckled. In the rearview mirror, she caught sight of Lily's bright face, already animated with anticipation. "Remember, sweetie," Claire said, turning in her seat to face her daughter, "we're just looking at the dresses we picked out online. No impulse buys today." Lily nodded solemnly, her dark curls bouncing. "I know, Mom. I've been saving my allowance too." She patted the small, sparkly purse in her lap, filled with carefully counted dollars and coins. Claire's heart swelled with pride. At 8 years old, Lily already understood the value of money and hard work, perhaps too well for someone so young. The thought brought a familiar pang of guilt, but Claire pushed it aside. Today was about joy, not regret. They stepped out into the crisp morning air. The store's facade gleamed in the sunlight, its pristine windows displaying mannequins dressed in the latest fashions. Claire smoothed her simple cotton blouse and straightened her practical jeans. She'd chosen comfortable flats instead of her usual work boots, a small concession to looking more put together for their shopping trip. "Look, Mom." Lily pointed to a pale blue dress that twirled on a rotating display. "It's just like the one we saw on the website." Claire smiled, checking her watch. They'd arrived right as the store opened, hoping to avoid the crowds. "Perfect timing, honey. Let's go find your perfect recital dress." As they approached the entrance, Claire's thoughts drifted to the careful budgeting that had made this trip possible. 3 months of brown bag lunches at work, skipping her morning coffee runs, and picking up extra weekend shifts when Lily stayed with her grandmother. The memory of Lily practicing her piano piece every evening, determined to earn her spot in the recital, made every sacrifice worthwhile. The automatic doors whispered open, welcoming them into the cool, perfumed interior. Claire inhaled deeply, savoring the familiar department store scent, a mixture of new clothes, carpet, and possibility. The click of their shoes echoed slightly in the still, quiet space. "Mom, can we look at the sparkly ones first?" Lily whispered, though there was no need for quiet. Her small hand slipped into Claire's, warm and trusting. "Of course we can." Claire squeezed her daughter's hand. "Lead the way, Princess." They walked past neat racks of clothing, everything arranged by size and color. The children's department beckoned from the far corner, its displays featuring cheerful prints and bright colors. Lily's steps quickened as they approached, her excitement building with each foot closer to their destination. Claire noticed other early shoppers beginning to filter in. A couple of elderly women examining sweaters, a harried-looking father with twin toddlers, a group of teenagers gathered around a jewelry counter. The store was coming to life around them, but Claire remained focused on Lily's happy chatter about the upcoming recital. "Miss Thompson says I'm ready," Lily was saying, referring to her piano teacher. "She thinks I might even get to play first this time, since I know my piece so well." "You've worked so hard," Claire agreed, watching Lily's face light up as they reached the special occasion dresses. "I'm already proud of you, no matter what." The dresses hung in neat rows, a rainbow of taffeta, silk, and tulle. Lily reached out to touch a particularly sparkly number, then remembered her manners and pulled her hand back. Claire nodded encouragingly. "It's okay to touch them gently, sweetheart. We need to find the right size anyway." As Lily began carefully examining the dresses, Claire checked the price tags with practiced discretion. She'd researched the store's prices online, but still felt a flutter of anxiety with each tag she turned over. The money she'd saved should be enough for a nice dress, but there wasn't much room for error in their budget. "Oh!" Lily's soft exclamation drew Claire's attention. Her daughter stood before a display of dresses in various shades of blue, from palest sky to deep midnight. In the center hung the dress they'd admired online, a knee-length confection in powder blue with delicate silver embroidery at the waist and hem. "Can I try it on?" Lily asked, her voice barely containing her excitement. "Please?" Claire checked the tag. It was within their budget, if just barely. "Let's find your size first," she said, moving through the rack with purpose. She located the right size and carefully lifted the dress from its hanger. "Here we go, sweetie." Lily's eyes sparkled with joy as she reached for the dress, handling it as if it were made of spun glass instead of polyester and tulle. The morning light streaming through the store's windows caught the silver threading, making it shimmer like starlight. "The fitting rooms are right over there," Claire pointed, guiding Lily toward the small corridor of curtained cubicles. "Let's see how it looks on you." They made their way across the polished floor, Lily clutching the dress to her chest, her face glowing with anticipation. Claire felt a warm bubble of happiness expand in her chest. These were the moments that made everything worthwhile. The long hours at work, the careful budgeting, the juggling of responsibilities. Seeing such pure joy on her daughter's face was worth every sacrifice. Other shoppers were beginning to fill the store now, their voices creating a gentle buzz of activity. The click of hangers, the soft thud of footsteps on carpet, and the distant ding of registers created the familiar symphony of retail commerce. Claire and Lily stepped into the brightly lit dress department, heading toward the fitting rooms, both mother and daughter caught up in the simple pleasure of their special morning together. The bright fluorescent lights of Milton's department store sparkled off racks of colorful dresses. Claire Matthews followed her daughter Lily through the junior section, watching as the 8-year-old's small hands brushed reverently against the fabrics. They had been saving for months for this special purchase. A dress for Lily's first piano recital. "Look, Mommy." Lily's excited voice carried through the quiet morning store. She pointed to a rack of formal dresses in various shades of blue and purple. "Can we look at these?" Claire smiled, her heart warming at her daughter's enthusiasm. "Of course, sweetheart. Remember our budget, though. We're looking for something nice, but not too expensive." They made their way to the rack, and Lily began carefully sorting through the dresses, her small face scrunched in concentration as she considered each option. Claire stood back, letting her daughter explore. These quiet moments together were precious, especially given her demanding job at the FBI. "This one?" Lily pulled out a sparkly purple dress with too many sequins. "Maybe something a little simpler," Claire suggested gently. "You want people focusing on your beautiful music, not just your dress." Lily nodded seriously, returning to her search. A few other early morning shoppers drifted through the department, some casting friendly smiles their way. Claire appreciated the peaceful atmosphere, so different from her usual workday tensions. "Oh!" Lily's gasp drew Claire's attention. Her daughter was holding up a knee-length dress in powder blue. The simple A-line cut featured delicate lace overlay on the bodice, with a modest neckline and cap sleeves. It was elegant, without being flashy, perfect for a young pianist. "Can I try it on?" Lily asked, her eyes shining with hope. Claire checked the price tag, relief washing over her. It was within their carefully planned budget. "Yes, let's find your size." They found the right size, and Claire helped Lily into one of the fitting rooms. When Lily emerged, Claire's breath caught. The dress fit perfectly, making her daughter look both sweet and sophisticated. Lily twirled, the skirt floating around her knees. "You look beautiful, sweetheart," Claire said softly, blinking back unexpected tears. These milestone moments always made her wish Lily's father was still alive to see them. "It feels perfect, Mommy," Lily said, smoothing the skirt. "And look, it has pockets." Claire laughed. "Well, that settles it then. Every girl needs dress pockets." They carefully changed Lily back into her regular clothes and headed toward the checkout counter. Claire held the dress carefully over one arm while Lily skipped beside her, chattering about the upcoming recital. They were nearly to the register when a tall man in an expensive suit stepped directly into their path. His name tag identified him as Mr. Dalton, store manager. Claire noticed immediately how his gaze swept dismissively over her simple jeans and worn sweater before settling on her scuffed purse. "May I help you?" His tone was cold, nothing like the welcoming voice a store manager should use with customers. "No, thank you," Claire replied politely, trying to step around him. "We've found what we need." Dalton shifted, blocking their path again. "I couldn't help but notice you spending quite a bit of time in our formal wear section." His eyes narrowed. "This isn't a discount store, madam." Claire felt her cheeks warm, but kept her voice steady. "We're aware of that. We'd like to purchase this dress." Other shoppers were starting to notice the confrontation. A small crowd gathered, some pretending to browse nearby racks while watching the scene unfold. Lily pressed closer to Claire's side, her earlier joy fading. Dalton's lip curled as he looked at the dress. "This is one of our finer pieces. Perhaps I could direct you to somewhere more. He paused meaningfully. Suitable for your budget. There's a lovely second-hand shop just down the street. Claire felt Lily's small hand slip into hers and squeeze tight. Her daughter's fingers trembled slightly, and Claire could sense the embarrassment and fear rolling off her in waves. The watching crowd had grown larger, their murmurs filling the suddenly tense air. Some faces showed sympathy, others judgment. Dalton seemed to draw confidence from his audience. He looked down his nose at Claire and delivered the final blow, his voice carrying clearly through the department. "You're too poor to shop here." Claire's jaw tightened as she felt Lily press against her side, trying to make herself smaller. The crowd's whispers grew louder, and Claire could feel every eye in the store fixed on them. Mr. Dalton's polished shoes clicked against the tile floor as he took another step toward Claire and Lily. His perfectly pressed suit and gold watch seemed to gleam under the store lights, matching the smug superiority in his expression. "I believe I made myself clear," he said, loud enough for nearby shoppers to hear. "This establishment caters to a certain caliber of customer." His eyes traveled deliberately from Claire's worn sneakers to her simple ponytail. "Perhaps you'd be more comfortable shopping elsewhere." Claire felt Lily's small hand tighten in hers. The little girl pressed closer to her mother's side, shrinking from the manager's cold stare. Around them, other customers had stopped browsing to watch the scene unfold. Some whispered behind their hands, while others looked away uncomfortably. "Sir," Claire said, keeping her voice steady and professional, "my daughter and I are paying customers. We have every right to be here, and we deserve to be treated with basic respect." Dalton's lip curled. "Rights?" He gave a short, dismissive laugh. "The only right I'm concerned with is my right to protect the reputation of this store. And frankly," he gestured at the modest blue dress Lily still clutched, "someone who has to check price tags before making a purchase doesn't belong here." A flush of anger crept up Claire's neck, but she maintained her composure. Years of FBI training had taught her to stay calm under pressure. She was aware of Lily trembling slightly beside her, and that awareness only strengthened her resolve. "Mr. Dalton," she said, noting his name tag, "I'm going to give you one more chance to treat us with the dignity every customer deserves. Would you like to reconsider your approach?" The manager's face reddened. "Are you threatening me?" He puffed up his chest, clearly used to intimidating others. "Security!" he called out, though no guards were visible nearby. "I want these people removed from the premises before they cause any more trouble." Several onlookers gasped at his escalation. An elderly woman clutching her shopping bag shook her head in disapproval. A teenage girl working behind a nearby counter looked down at her feet, clearly uncomfortable with her boss's behavior. Claire felt a familiar calm settle over her, the same steadiness that guided her through complex FBI operations. Without breaking eye contact with Dalton, she reached for her wallet. "Mom?" Lily whispered, confusion and worry mixing in her voice. "It's okay, sweetheart," Claire assured her daughter. Then she addressed Dalton again, her tone shifting from polite to authoritative. "You seem very concerned about credentials, sir. Let me share mine with you." In one smooth motion, Claire pulled out her badge, the golden shield, catching the overhead lights as she held it up. Her voice cut through the store's hushed atmosphere with crystal clarity. "I'm Special Agent Claire Matthews with the Federal Bureau of Investigation." The effect was immediate and dramatic. Gasps rippled through the gathered crowd. The teenage clerk's jaw dropped. An older man who'd been pretending to examine ties suddenly knocked over an entire display. Dalton's face drained of color so quickly it was almost comical. He took an involuntary step backward, his previous swagger evaporating. I didn't." "Now you know who I am," Claire continued, her voice level but carrying an unmistakable edge of authority. "But that shouldn't matter. Every person who walks through those doors deserves to be treated with respect, regardless of their occupation or economic status." Lily stood straighter beside her mother, pride replacing her earlier embarrassment. The little girl's chin lifted, and a small smile played at the corners of her mouth. Dalton's mouth opened and closed several times, like a fish out of water. His hands fidgeted with his expensive tie. "Agent Matthews, I assure you there's been a misunderstanding. If you'll allow me to explain." Before he could continue, Claire's phone vibrated in her pocket with an urgent buzz, the distinct pattern she recognized as her FBI handler's emergency signal. Claire's heart still pounded from the confrontation as she guided Lily toward the store's restroom area. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting harsh shadows on the beige walls. "Sweetie, I need to take this call. Can you wait right here by the water fountain?" Claire knelt to meet her daughter's worried eyes. "I won't be long. I promise." Lily nodded bravely, though her small fingers still clutched the blue dress they'd picked out. "Okay, Mom, I'll be good." Claire squeezed her daughter's shoulder before ducking into the restroom. The chrome fixtures and white tile provided a stark, clinical backdrop as she pulled out her phone. Her supervisor's name flashed on the screen. "Matthew's here," she answered, her voice low and professional. "Claire, we've got a situation." Special Agent Miller's gravelly tone carried the weight of urgency. "That chain store you mentioned in your text, the one where you're shopping with Lily, we need to talk about it." Claire's spine stiffened. "What's going on, sir?" "We've received intelligence from 3 separate informants in the past hour. Remember that trafficking case we've been working on? The one with the missing Eastern European women?" "Of course." Claire leaned against the cool tile wall, her mind already racing through the case files. "We thought they were being moved through shipping containers." "That was only part of it." Miller's voice dropped lower. "We now have credible evidence that several stores in this retail chain are being used as distribution points. The trafficking ring is hiding in plain sight, using the legitimate business as cover." Claire's free hand pressed against the wall for support. Her eyes found her reflection in the mirror. A mother in simple clothes, the very image of normalcy that had drawn Dalton's contempt. Now that image seemed like perfect cover. "The store managers?" she asked, though she already suspected the answer. "Some are involved. Others are being paid to look the other way. We don't know which is which. Yet." Miller paused. "Claire, I know you're there with Lily, but I need you to be aware. Watch everything, but don't tip your hand. We're setting up surveillance, but it will take time." Through the restroom door, Claire could hear the gentle whoosh of the water fountain where Lily waited. Her daughter's innocent presence suddenly felt both precious and precarious. "Sir, that manager out there, Dalton, he just tried to throw us out. Said we looked too poor to shop here." Claire's voice carried a new edge of understanding. "Interesting timing," Miller mused. "Could be nothing. Could be something. Either way, don't engage further right now. Your badge flash might have already complicated things." Claire closed her eyes, remembering the way Dalton's face had drained of color when she'd revealed her identity. Had there been more than simple embarrassment in his reaction? "What's our next move?" she asked, running through protocols in her mind. "For now, you finish shopping with your daughter." Miller's tone softened slightly. "Act normal. We'll set up a proper briefing tomorrow morning, 800 hours. But Claire?" He hesitated. "Watch your back, and keep Lily close." "Understood, sir." Claire ended the call, her hand trembling slightly as she slipped the phone back into her purse. She took a moment to splash cold water on her face, the shock of it helping to clear her mind. The mirror reflected back a woman who looked outwardly calm, but her eyes held the sharp focus of an agent who had just received critical intelligence. The restroom door seemed heavier as she pushed it open. Lily stood exactly where Claire had left her, one hand trailing in the water fountain stream, the blue dress still carefully draped over her other arm. "Everything okay, Mom?" Lily asked, her young face showing the intuitive concern children often have for their parents' moods. Claire gathered her daughter close, breathing in the familiar scent of her strawberry shampoo. The shopping trip that had started as a simple mother-daughter outing now felt like standing on the edge of something dark and dangerous. Beyond the restroom alcove, she could hear the normal sounds of the store, the muzak playing softly overhead, the rustle of hangers, the murmur of shoppers. But now every sound carried new meaning. Every interaction could hold hidden significance. She thought of the women mentioned in the case files. Daughters, sisters, mothers themselves perhaps, being moved through this bright, ordinary space like merchandise. The very normalcy of it made her stomach turn. Lily tugged at her hand. "Can we still get the dress, Mom? Even though that mean man didn't want us to?" Claire looked down at her daughter's hopeful face, so innocent of the shadows gathering around them. She forced a smile, knowing that maintaining normalcy was now both her cover and her shield. "Of course we can, sweetheart. We're not going to let anyone tell us where we can and can't shop." She straightened her shoulders, professional instinct sliding into place beneath her maternal exterior. Taking Lily's hand, she stepped back into the main store area. The space looked different now, Each security camera might be watching more than shoplifters. Each employee could be either victim or conspirator. Each storage door might hide unspeakable secrets. A flash of movement caught her eye. Dalton, speaking intensely into a phone near the customer service desk. His face was still pale, his free hand gesturing sharply as he talked. Was it just a manager complaining to corporate about an FBI agent in his store? Or something more sinister? Claire drew in a deep breath, feeling the weight of her badge in her purse, the responsibility of her oath heavy on her shoulders. The morning's humiliation at Dalton's hands seemed to fade away, replaced by something far more urgent and deadly serious. She squeezed Lily's small hand tighter in her own as they walked toward the registers. Under her breath, soft enough that only she could hear, Claire whispered, "God, give me strength. This is more than shopping now." Claire approached the checkout counter, her FBI badge now tucked safely away, but its revelation still rippling through the store. Mr. Dalton stood behind the register, his earlier arrogance deflated like a punctured balloon. His hands trembled slightly as he reached for the blue dress Lily had chosen. That will be 49.99, he mumbled, avoiding eye contact. His perfectly pressed shirt suddenly seemed to hang loose around his collar, damp with nervous sweat. Lily squeezed her mother's hand and whispered, "Mom, can I still have the dress?" Claire smiled down at her daughter. "Of course, sweetheart. You earned this with your good grades." She pulled out her credit card, maintaining a composed demeanor despite the lingering sting of Dalton's earlier insults. Behind Dalton, a young clerk with dark hair caught Claire's attention. The girl couldn't have been more than 25, and she moved with the cautious steps of someone trying to stay invisible. Yet, when their eyes met, the clerk whose name tag read Rosa offered Claire a small, encouraging smile. As Dalton fumbled with the dress bag, his movements clumsy and rushed, Rosa stepped forward to help fold the garment. Her hands moved with practiced grace, treating the fabric with care that spoke of pride in her work, despite her apparent nervousness. "Thank you," Claire said warmly to Rosa, who ducked her head in acknowledgement. Have a nice day," Dalton managed to say, his face still ashen. Claire guided Lily toward the exit, the shopping bag swinging from her hand. The store's air conditioning hit them with a blast of cold air, and Claire noticed Lily shivering slightly. She was about to suggest they head home when she heard quick, light footsteps behind them. "Ma'am?" It was Rosa, carrying a stack of promotional flyers. Her voice was soft, barely above a whisper. "Would you like to know about our upcoming sales?" Claire recognized the approach for what it was, an excuse to talk. She turned to face the young woman, noting how Rosa's eyes darted anxiously toward Dalton's position at the register. "Why don't you tell me about them?" Claire kept her voice casual, understanding the need for discretion. Rosa stepped closer, pretending to show Claire a flyer. Her hands shook slightly as she pointed to random items on the page. "The store. It's not what it seems," she whispered, her accent more pronounced in her nervous state. "There are things that happen here after closing time. Bad things." Claire felt her FBI instincts sharpen, but she maintained her relaxed posture. Lily was occupied, admiring her reflection in a nearby mirror, twirling an imaginary version of her new dress. "What kind of things?" Claire asked quietly, appearing to study the sales paper. Rosa's fingers tightened on the flyers, crinkling the edges. "I can't. I shouldn't say more, but please." She glanced over her shoulder again, fear evident in her dark eyes. "Be careful. Some people here, they're not who they pretend to be." Before Claire could respond, Rosa was already backing away, her warning hanging in the air like a fog. "Thank you for shopping with us," she said in a louder voice, her professional mask slipping back into place as she hurried back to her position. Claire watched her go, noting how Rosa's shoulders hunched as she passed Dalton's register. The manager barely acknowledged her, but there was something in his dismissive glance that made Claire's skin crawl. "Mom, can we go home now?" Lily tugged at her sleeve. "I want to try on my dress again." "Of course, sweetie." Claire held her daughter close as they walked to their car, her mind already connecting dots between Rosa's warning and the disturbing phone call she'd received earlier. The drive home was filled with Lily's excited chatter about her upcoming recital, but Claire's thoughts kept returning to Rosa's frightened eyes and trembling hands. The young woman's warning echoed in her mind, mixing with her supervisor's briefing about the suspected trafficking ring. Later that evening, after a simple dinner of mac and cheese, Lily's favorite Claire went through their bedtime routine. She helped Lily hang up the new dress carefully in her closet, smiling as her daughter insisted on keeping the closet door open so I can see it while I fall asleep. "Time for bed, sweetheart." Claire tucked the covers around Lily, smoothing back her daughter's hair. The butterfly nightlight cast a gentle glow across the room, but Claire couldn't shake the shadows that Rose's words had brought into her thoughts. "Mommy?" Lily's voice was sleepy. "I'm glad you showed that mean man your badge today. You're the bravest mom ever." Claire leaned down to kiss her daughter's forehead, breathing in the sweet smell of her strawberry shampoo. "I love you, Lilybug. Sweet dreams." She waited until Lily's breathing evened out into the rhythm of sleep before quietly leaving the room. In the hallway, Claire paused, her hand still on Lily's doorknob. Rose's warning played over in her mind. "You don't know what happens here after closing." The weight of her badge, though not physically with her in that moment, seemed to press against her conscience. In her daughter's room, all was peaceful, but somewhere in that store, Claire knew, something sinister was lurking behind the bright lights and polished displays. Moving to the living room window, Claire gazed out at the quiet suburban street. The same store that had humiliated her this morning now held darker secrets, and somewhere in its shadows, a young clerk named Rosa carried a burden of knowledge that had made her risk everything to whisper a warning. The morning sunlight streamed through the stained glass windows of First Community Church, casting warm colors across the wooden pews. Claire Matthews sat with her daughter Lily, both dressed in their Sunday best. Lily wore a pink floral dress that made her look like a spring flower, while Claire had chosen a simple navy blue dress that spoke to her modest taste. The familiar hymns and prayers usually brought Claire peace, but today her mind kept drifting back to Rose's whispered warning. Even as the congregation sang "Amazing Grace," she couldn't shake the image of the young clerk's fearful eyes. "Mom," Lily whispered, tugging at Claire's sleeve. "You missed the part about standing up." Claire blinked, realizing the congregation had risen for a prayer. She quickly stood, giving Lily's hand a grateful squeeze. Her daughter had always been observant, catching the little things Claire sometimes missed when her thoughts wandered to work. Pastor Mike's sermon focused on helping those in need, and Claire felt each word strike close to home. "Sometimes," he said, his voice carrying through the sanctuary, "God puts us in places where we can make a difference. We just have to open our eyes and hearts to see the calling." After the service, the congregation gathered in the fellowship hall for coffee and cookies. Lily darted off to join the other children at the cookie table, while Claire found herself beside Mrs. Henderson, a retired schoolteacher who seemed to know everything about everyone in town. "Claire, dear," Mrs. Henderson said, lowering her voice, "I heard about what happened at Marshall's department store yesterday. That Dalton has always been trouble." Claire sipped her coffee, careful to keep her expression neutral. "News travels fast." "Oh, honey, you don't know the half of it." Mrs. Henderson glanced around before continuing. "My niece worked there last summer. The story she told me about how they treat their workers, especially the foreign ones." She shook her head sadly. "Long hours, missing wages, threats about their papers. It's not right." Claire's FBI instincts kicked in, but she maintained her casual demeanor. "That sounds terrible. Has anyone reported it?" "Who would they report it to? Those poor girls are scared. And Dalton, well, let's just say he has friends in high places." Mrs. Henderson's usually cheerful face darkened. "Sometimes I see them leaving late at night, looking exhausted. Some don't even have proper winter coats." The conversation was interrupted by Lily running up cookie crumbs on her dress. "Mom, can we go to the prayer garden? I want to show you the new flowers." Claire smiled, grateful for her daughter's timing. "Of course, sweetheart. Mrs. Henderson, thank you for sharing. I'll keep those workers in my prayers." The prayer garden was a quiet corner of the church grounds, filled with roses and peaceful stone benches. Lily skipped ahead, pointing out purple crocuses pushing through the spring soil. Claire watched her daughter's innocent joy, feeling the weight of responsibility pressing down on her shoulders. They found a secluded bench near the statue of Jesus blessing the children. Lily climbed onto Claire's lap, something she did less often now that she was getting bigger, but still sought out when she sensed her mother needed comfort. "Can we pray together, Mom?" Lily asked, her voice small but steady. "That's a wonderful idea, sweetie." They bowed their heads together, and Claire felt tears prick at her eyes as Lily started with her simple, heartfelt prayer. Dear God, thank you for making Mom so brave and strong. Please help her. Help other people who need it. Just like you. Help us. Claire wrapped her arms tighter around her daughter, adding her own silent prayer. She asked for wisdom to navigate the dangerous waters ahead, for protection for Rosa and the other workers, and most importantly, for the strength to do what was right while keeping her daughter safe. The spring breeze carried the scent of blooming flowers, and somewhere nearby, a church bell tolled. Claire opened her eyes, looking at the peaceful garden around them. She knew what she had to do. The investigation would have to be careful, methodical, and completely separate from her role as a mother. Mom, Lily looked up at her with those trusting eyes. Are you going to help those people at the store? Claire smoothed her daughter's hair. I'm going to try, baby. But I need you to understand something. When I'm with you, I'm just Mom. No FBI business, no dangerous work. That's my promise to you, okay? Lily nodded solemnly. Like Clark Kent and Superman? A smile tugged at Claire's lips. Something like that. Except I'm not changing in phone booths. They sat together in the garden a while longer, Lily pointing out butterflies, while Claire's mind began forming plans. She would need to build trust with Rosa slowly, gather evidence carefully, and above all, ensure that her investigation never followed them home to threaten the peaceful world she'd built for her daughter. The garden's tranquility strengthened her resolve. She might not wear a cape like Superman, but she had something just as powerful, a mother's determination to protect not only her own child, but all those who needed help. As she knelt with Lily for one final prayer, Claire knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, she would face them with both courage and caution. Tomorrow would bring its own battles, but for now, in this peaceful garden with her daughter's hand in hers, Claire found the clarity she needed. God had indeed put her in this place for a reason, and she would answer that calling, one careful step at a time. Monday morning brought a crisp autumn chill that made Claire Matthews pull her worn cardigan closer as she walked Lily to the school entrance. The familiar brick building buzzed with the energy of children rushing to their classes, backpacks bouncing and lunchboxes swinging. Have a wonderful day, sweetheart, Claire said, kneeling to give Lily a quick hug. Remember, Mrs. Peterson is picking you up for piano practice after school. I know, Mom. Lily's smile brightened her whole face. Be careful at work today. Claire's heart squeezed. Even at 8, Lily somehow sensed when something important was happening. Always am, baby. I love you. Love you too, Lily called over her shoulder as she skipped toward her friends. Claire watched until her daughter disappeared through the double doors, then checked her watch. The department store would be opening in 20 minutes. Perfect timing to blend in with the early morning shoppers. She'd chosen her outfit carefully. Comfortable jeans, a plain sweater, and practical shoes. Nothing that would draw attention. The store's parking lot was starting to fill when she arrived. Claire grabbed a shopping cart and purposefully wandered toward the home goods section, which offered a clear view of the main counter where Rosa usually worked. She pretended to examine throw pillows while watching the morning routine unfold. Mr. Dalton strutted through the aisles like a peacock in his press suit, barking orders at employees who scurried to avoid his attention. His demeanor had changed drastically since Saturday's confrontation. He barely glanced in Claire's direction, though she noticed his shoulders tense when he passed nearby. Rosa arrived for her shift at exactly 9:00 a.m., her dark hair pulled back in a neat bun, her store uniform slightly too large for her small frame. Claire recognized the careful way Rosa moved, like someone trying to make themselves invisible. It was a stance Claire had seen too many times in victims of abuse and exploitation. Around 10:30 a.m., 3 men in expensive suits entered the store. They didn't browse or shop. Instead, they moved with purpose, speaking in low voices and occasionally gesturing toward different areas of the building. Claire's instincts prickled. Their behavior matched the pattern she'd seen in other trafficking cases, men who acted like they owned the place but weren't part of the regular staff. She drifted to the women's clothing section, methodically sorting through racks of blouses while keeping the men in her peripheral vision. One of them, a broad-shouldered man with graying temples, approached Dalton. Their conversation looked casual, but Claire noticed how Dalton's usual arrogance melted into something more subservient. Throughout the morning, Claire observed Rosa's reactions whenever the suited men came near. The young woman's hands would tremble slightly while folding clothes or ringing up customers. When Dalton called her over to speak with one of the men, Rosa's whole body seemed to shrink into itself. Claire pulled out her phone, pretending to text while snapping quick photos of the interactions. She'd learned long ago how to hold her phone naturally while capturing surveillance images, a skill that had proved invaluable in her FBI work. The store grew busier as lunchtime approached. Claire bought a small bottle of water from Rosa's register, their eyes meeting briefly. Rosa's gaze held recognition, but she quickly looked away, her movements mechanical as she handed over the change. Just before noon, the man with graying temples approached Rosa's counter again. Claire had positioned herself near a nearby sunglasses display, appearing absorbed in trying on different pairs while actually watching the interaction in the mirror. The man pulled a folded piece of paper from his pocket and slid it across the counter to Rosa. His lips barely moved as he spoke, but Rosa's face drained of color. She nodded once, clutching the note in her trembling hand. Claire's heart rate quickened as the man gestured for Rosa to follow him toward the stockroom doors. She quickly raised her phone, angling it to capture several clear shots of the exchange, and Rosa's frightened expression as they walked away. The images were crisp on her screen. Rosa accepting the note, the man's commanding posture, their path toward the stockroom. Claire's thumb hovered over the send button, ready to forward them to her supervisor at the bureau, but she forced herself to wait, knowing that timing would be crucial in building their case. A small group of shoppers passed between Claire and the stockroom entrance, temporarily blocking her view. When they moved on, Rosa and the man had disappeared behind the heavy metal doors marked "Employees Only." The neon sign of Joe's Diner flickered against the darkening sky as Claire pulled into the nearly empty parking lot. She'd chosen this spot carefully, far enough from the department store to avoid suspicion, but public enough to feel safe. The small restaurant sat on the outskirts of town, where truckers and late-shift workers often stopped for coffee and pie. Claire stepped inside, the bell above the door announcing her arrival. The smell of coffee and grilled onions filled the air. A few customers hunched over their plates at the counter while a tired-looking waitress refilled coffee cups. Claire slid into a worn red vinyl booth near the back, positioning herself to see both the entrance and the emergency exit. She ordered a coffee and waited, her fingers drumming quietly on the laminated menu. At exactly 7:30, the bell chimed again. Rosa Alvarez entered, her dark eyes scanning the diner nervously. She wore the same navy blazer from her store uniform, but her name tag was missing. Her shoulders were tense, and she clutched her purse close to her body. When Rosa spotted Claire, relief flickered across her face. She hurried to the booth, sliding in quickly, as if afraid someone might see her through the windows. "Thank you for coming," Claire said softly, pushing a cup of coffee toward the young woman. "I ordered this for you. Cream and sugar are right there if you'd like." Rosa's hands trembled slightly as she added 3 packets of sugar to her cup. "I shouldn't be here," she whispered, glancing around. "If they find out." "No one followed you," Claire assured her. "I made sure of that, and everyone here is focused on their own business." The waitress approached their table, notepad in hand. "You ladies ready to order?" "2 slices of apple pie, please," Claire said with a warm smile. "And could we have a few minutes of privacy?" The waitress nodded, understanding in her eyes. She'd seen enough late-night conversations to know when people needed space. Once they were alone again, Rosa took a small sip of coffee. "It's bad there," she said, her voice barely audible. "The things they do, the way they treat us." Claire leaned forward slightly. "Tell me everything you can." Rosa's story spilled out in hushed tones, punctuated by nervous glances toward the door. She described how the store recruited workers from her community, promising good wages and assistance with immigration paperwork. But once they started working, everything changed. "They take our documents for processing," Rosa explained, making air quotes with trembling fingers. "Then they say we owe them money for the paperwork, for uniform fees, for training. The deductions from our paychecks never end. Some weeks, we get almost nothing." The waitress returned with 2 plates of pie. Rosa fell silent until she walked away. "That's not the worst part," Rosa continued, pushing her pie around with her fork. "The women, some of them disappear. They tell us they've been transferred to other stores, but we never hear from them again. Last month, my friend Maria," her voice cracked. Claire reached across the table, gently touching Rosa's hand. "What happened to Maria?" "She complained about the working conditions. 2 days later, they said she'd been moved to a store in California, but her family hasn't heard from her." Her little boy keeps asking when Mama's coming home. Tears welled in Rosa's eyes. The men in suits, Claire prompted gently. The ones I saw today, they're involved? Rosa nodded, dabbing at her eyes with a paper napkin. They come 2 or 3 times a week, always after closing. They take some of the women to the stockroom for special inventory. Those women come back different, scared. Some have bruises they try to hide. Claire's jaw tightened, but she kept her voice calm and steady. Are there records? Paperwork? Anything that shows where people are being sent? Dalton keeps everything locked in his office, but sometimes, late at night, I hear voices from the basement. There's a door behind the loading dock that leads down there. Nobody's supposed to use it, but those men have keys. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as Rosa leaned closer. My family back home, I send them what little money I can. They depend on me. If something happens to me. She pressed her hands to her face, shoulders shaking. Rosa. Claire's voice was firm but gentle. Look at me. Rosa lowered her hands, revealing tear-stained cheeks. What you're telling me is incredibly brave. But I need you to understand something. You can't tell anyone else about this conversation. Not your coworkers, not anyone. It could put you in danger. Please, Rosa pleaded, genuine fear in her eyes. You can't tell anyone what I said. They know where my family lives. My little sister, my mother. Fresh tears spilled down her cheeks. Claire reached across the table and took both of Rosa's hands in hers. Her grip was warm and steady, her eyes filled with determination. I promise you, Rosa, I will protect you. And them. You have my word. Rosa's fingers tightened around Claire's, clinging to that promise like a lifeline in a storm. For a moment, they sat in silence, their untouched pie growing cold between them, while the diner's old ceiling fans whirred softly overhead. You're not alone anymore, Claire said quietly. Remember that. Outside, a truck rumbled past on the highway, its headlights briefly illuminating their booth through the window. Rosa flinched at the light, but Claire's steady grip didn't waver. In that moment, a fragile trust formed between them, a FBI agent and a frightened store clerk, united by the need to right a terrible wrong. The morning sun streamed through the stained glass windows of First Grace Church, casting colorful patterns across the wooden pews. Claire sat in her usual spot, third row from the back, with Lily nestled against her side. As the congregation filed out after the service, she noticed more eyes than usual turning her way, accompanied by gentle smiles and sympathetic nods. Mrs. Henderson, a silver-haired grandmother who'd attended the church for 40 years, approached them first. Claire, dear, she said, placing a warm hand on Claire's arm, we all saw that horrible video. The way that man treated you and sweet Lily, it just breaks my heart. Claire's cheeks warmed. Video? Oh yes, Mrs. Henderson nodded, pulling out her phone. Someone recorded the whole thing. It's all over Facebook. That manager should be ashamed of himself. Claire watched the shaky footage with a mixture of embarrassment and surprise. There she was, standing tall despite Dalton's sneering face. The video captured his cruel words perfectly. You're too poor to shop here. Then came the moment she revealed her badge, followed by scattered applause from other shoppers. You showed such grace under pressure, Mrs. Henderson said, squeezing Claire's hand. We're all so proud of you. Throughout the morning, other church members stopped to offer support. Sister Mary brought over a fresh apple pie, still warm from the oven. For you and Lily, she insisted. Remember what the good book says about treating strangers with kindness. The youth pastor's wife, Sarah, shared how she'd called the store's corporate office to complain about Dalton's behavior. They need to know this isn't acceptable, she said firmly. We're all God's children, regardless of what we wear or carry in our wallets. As they walked to their car after service, Claire's elderly neighbor, Mr. Rodriguez, waved them over. He'd been tending his prized roses but set down his gardening tools to talk. Mi hija, he called out, using his affectionate nickname for Claire. The whole neighborhood is talking about what happened. That man, he has no respect. Lily tugged at Claire's sleeve. Mom, everyone's being so nice. Claire smiled down at her daughter. They sure are, sweetie. Back home, the support continued. Their doorbell rang throughout the afternoon. Betty from across the street brought over a homemade lasagna. The Wilson family dropped off a grocery bag full of baked goods. Even teenagers from the church youth group stopped by with handmade cards for Lily. Claire's phone buzzed with text messages and social media notifications. The video had spread beyond their small community, drawing comments from people she'd never met. Many shared similar stories of discrimination, while others praised her composure and strength. Sitting at her kitchen table that evening, surrounded by casserole dishes and cards, Claire felt overwhelmed by the outpouring of love. The aroma of fresh-baked goods filled her home, but it was the warmth of community support that truly touched her heart. Mrs. Peterson, her next-door neighbor for the past 5 years, came over after dinner. She brought tea and settled into Claire's worn but comfortable armchair. "You know," she said, stirring honey into her cup, "what that man did was terrible, but look at all the good it's brought out in people." Claire nodded, watching Lily arrange the cards she'd received on the coffee table. "I never expected this response." "That's because you're humble, dear Mrs." Peterson replied. "But we see you, working so hard as a single mother, serving our community through your job, always ready to help others. It's time we returned some of that kindness." A group text from the church prayer circle buzzed on Claire's phone. "We're here for you, Claire. Whatever you need, you're not alone in this fight." The word fight caught her attention, reminding her of Rosa's fearful eyes and the darker investigation ahead. But looking around her living room, at the physical evidence of community support surrounding her, Claire felt a new surge of strength. Lily climbed onto her lap, smelling of chocolate chip cookies and childhood innocence. "Mom, are you okay?" she asked, noticing Claire's thoughtful expression. Claire hugged her daughter close. "I'm more than okay, sweetheart. I'm blessed." That night, after Lily was tucked in bed, Claire knelt beside her own bed to pray. The moonlight filtered through her curtains, casting a gentle glow across the room. She thought about Rosa, about the trafficking victims who needed help, about the complex investigation ahead, but she also thought about the casseroles in her fridge, the cards on her coffee table, and the dozens of messages on her phone. She remembered the fierce protectiveness in her neighbors' eyes, the gentle touches from church members, and the way her community had rallied around her family. "Thank you, Lord," she whispered, "for showing me I'm not alone. Give me the strength to face what's coming, and help me be worthy of all this love and support." As she rose from her knees, Claire felt grounded in a way she hadn't since receiving that urgent call at the store. Her badge gave her authority, her training gave her skills, but her faith and community, they gave her the foundation she needed to stand firm in the face of whatever challenges lay ahead. She looked at the cross hanging on her bedroom wall, a gift from her late husband. The silver surface caught the moonlight, reminding her that even in the darkest moments, light found a way to shine through. Her community's response had proven that truth beautifully. Tomorrow, she would return to her investigation with renewed purpose, but tonight, she rested in the knowledge that she wasn't fighting alone. Her faith would guide her, and her community would support her every step of the way. The soft glow of Claire's laptop illuminated her tired face as she sat at the kitchen table, surrounded by stacks of manila folders. Her coffee had gone cold hours ago, forgotten as she dove deeper into the case files. The kitchen clock ticked steadily toward midnight, marking another hour of investigation. She rubbed her eyes, fighting exhaustion. The FBI database held years of suspected trafficking cases, and she'd been matching delivery schedules, employee records, and incident reports against the store's public records. Her notepad was filled with scribbled connections, arrows linking seemingly unrelated details. A floorboard creaked behind her. "Mommy?" Claire turned to find Lily standing in her purple unicorn pajamas, clutching her stuffed rabbit. Her daughter's hair was tousled from sleep, her eyes heavy but concerned. "Hey, sweetie," Claire said softly. "What are you doing up?" "I had a bad dream." Lily padded over to the table. "Are you still working?" Claire closed one of the more disturbing files, shielding Lily from its contents. "Just trying to help some people who need it." She opened her arms, and Lily climbed into her lap. "How about some hot cocoa? That always helps with bad dreams." Lily nodded against her shoulder. Claire kissed the top of her head and stood, grateful for the break. She moved around the kitchen with practiced ease, warming milk in a pan while Lily watched from her perch at the table. "Can I help?" Lily asked. "You can get the marshmallows." Claire smiled as Lily eagerly retrieved the bag from the pantry. Together, they stirred in the chocolate powder and topped their mugs with tiny white clouds. "Remember when Daddy used to make this for us?" Lily asked, blowing on her cocoa. Claire's heart squeezed. He always put in extra marshmallows, didn't he? And called them cloud mountains. Lily giggled, then grew serious. Do you think he'd be proud of us? Claire pulled her daughter close. Very proud. Especially of how brave and kind you are. They sat in comfortable silence, sipping their cocoa. Claire's eyes drifted back to her work, but she forced herself to stay present in this moment with Lily. Cases could consume her if she let them, and she'd promised herself never to let work overshadow her daughter's needs. Is this about Rosa? Lily asked suddenly. Claire nearly choked on her cocoa. What makes you ask that? I saw how sad she looked at the store, like Jessica did when her mom was sick. Lily stirred her marshmallows thoughtfully. You help people who are sad. Sometimes Lily's perceptiveness took Claire's breath away. You're right, sweetheart. Rosa and some other people need help, and I'm trying to figure out how best to do that. You'll find a way, Lily said with absolute certainty. You always do. After finishing their cocoa, Claire tucked Lily back into bed with extra hugs and a prayer. Dear God, please keep Mommy safe while she helps people, and help her know what to do. Amen. Amen, Claire whispered, her daughter's faith strengthening her resolve. Back at the kitchen table, Claire attacked the files with renewed focus. She pulled up shipping manifests, cross-referencing them with employee schedules. Something about the pattern of deliveries had been nagging at her. The store's official records showed regular shipments during business hours, but she'd noticed security footage timestamps of trucks arriving well after midnight. Those late deliveries corresponded with dates when certain employees, including Rosa, were scheduled for inventory. Claire's fingers flew across her keyboard, following a hunch. She accessed property records for addresses listed in the shipping logs. Most were legitimate warehouses owned by the retail chain, but one caught her attention. It was registered to a shell company, and its utility usage didn't match standard storage patterns. Her pulse quickened as she dug deeper. The warehouse's location was perfect for temporary housing, isolated but accessible, with multiple exit routes. She pulled up personnel files, searching for any connection to known trafficking suspects. That's when she found it. Hidden in rows of data was a list of names workers scheduled for special training at the warehouse location. Claire's blood ran cold as she scrolled through them, her chest tightening with each familiar face. And there, third from the bottom, was Rosa's name. Claire's hands trembled as she stared at the screen. The pieces were falling into place with terrible clarity. The late-night deliveries, the threatened workers, the mysterious disappearances, it all centered on that warehouse. And now Rosa, who had trusted Claire enough to speak up, was on their list. Her heart pounded against her ribs as the full weight of the discovery settled over her. The evidence was right there in black and white, damning and undeniable. They weren't just exploiting workers. They were systematically targeting them. Every motherly instinct in Claire screamed to protect Rosa, even as her FBI training urged caution and procedure. The list of names represented real people, real lives at risk. Rosa's face floated in her mind, young, frightened, but brave enough to reach out for help. Claire's fingers hovered over her phone, the urgent need to act warring with the knowledge that one wrong move could put everyone in greater danger. The warehouse location glowed on her screen, a bright pin on a dark map, marking both a breakthrough and a terrifying new phase of the investigation. Claire stood before her FBI team, in the dimly lit conference room, her laser pointer dancing across the projected blueprint of the department store and its connected warehouse. 8 seasoned agents leaned forward in their chairs, their faces serious as they absorbed every detail of her presentation. Based on Rosa's information and our surveillance, Claire said, her voice steady despite her racing heart, we believe at least 12 women are being held in this section of the warehouse. The red dot settled on a corner of the blueprint marked with hatched lines. Special Agent Miller, her supervisor, nodded thoughtfully. What about entry points? 3 main entrances here, here, and here. Claire moved the pointer accordingly. But Rosa confirmed they're heavily monitored. There's a service entrance in the back that's less secure. That's our best bet. Agent Rodriguez, a veteran tactical specialist, raised his hand. Timeline? We move at midnight. The skeleton crew will be at minimum strength, and the shift change creates a natural window of confusion. Claire switched to a photo of Rosa. But before anything else, we need to ensure Rosa's safety. She's risking everything to help us. Miller's forehead creased. Matthews, I understand your concern, but... Sir? Claire interrupted firmly but respectfully. Rosa is more than an informant. She's a victim who found the courage to speak up. We protect her first, or we risk losing everything she's helped us build." The room fell silent. Miller studied Claire's determined expression, then gave a slight nod. "Agreed. We'll position a team to extract her before the main operation begins." Relief washed over Claire. She continued with the briefing, detailing entry strategies, contingency plans, and coordination with local law enforcement. Her colleagues asked sharp questions, and she answered each one with a precision that came from weeks of careful preparation. As the meeting concluded, Claire checked her phone. A text from Mrs. Henderson, her elderly neighbor, showed a photo of Lily twirling in her blue recital dress. The sight made Claire's heart squeeze with both love and worry. "Having second thoughts?" Miller asked quietly as the other agents filed out. Claire showed him the photo. "No, this is exactly why we do what we do, so daughters like mine can grow up in a world where women aren't treated like property." Miller squeezed her shoulder. "Go see her before we start. We've got 2 hours until deployment." Claire drove through the quiet suburban streets to Mrs. Henderson's house, her mind cycling through operation details, even as she tried to focus on the present moment. The porch light welcomed her, and before she could knock, the door opened to reveal Lily's beaming face. "Mommy, look!" Lily spun around, the blue dress floating around her like butterfly wings. "Mrs. Henderson helped me practice my dance." Claire gathered her daughter in a tight hug, breathing in the sweet smell of her shampoo. "You look beautiful, sweetheart. Like a princess." Mrs. Henderson appeared in the doorway, her kind face wrinkled with a knowing smile. "She's been practicing nonstop. Would you like some tea, Claire?" "I can't stay long," Claire apologized, but followed them inside. The living room was warm and cozy, with the familiar scent of fresh-baked cookies in the air. Lily grabbed a cookie and settled on the couch. "Will you be home to tuck me in tonight, Mommy?" Claire's heart ached. "Not tonight, baby. Mommy has to work late. But Mrs. Henderson will take good care of you, and I'll be here first thing in the morning." "To catch bad guys?" Lily asked, her voice serious. "Yes, sweetie. To help people who need help." "Like Rosa?" Lily remembered the kind clerk from the store. Claire blinked in surprise. "How did you?" "I heard you praying for her last night," Lily said simply. "Can I pray for her too?" Tears pricked at Claire's eyes. "Of course you can, baby. That would help a lot." Mrs. Henderson touched Claire's arm gently. "We'll say an extra prayer tonight, won't we, Lily? For all the people your mommy helps." After one more hug and kiss, Claire forced herself to leave. The drive back to headquarters felt longer than usual, her thoughts divided between the operation ahead and the daughter she was leaving behind. At the FBI staging area, Claire found her team gearing up. She pulled on her tactical vest, checked her weapon, and adjusted her radio earpiece. The familiar routine helped steady her nerves. Agent Rodriguez approached with a final equipment check. Communications are green. Tactical teams are in position. Local PD is standing by. Claire nodded, double-checking her vest straps. Rosa's extraction team? Already moving. They'll signal when she's secure. The locker room was filled with the quiet efficiency of professionals preparing for a dangerous mission. Claire could feel the tension, the focused energy of people who understood the stakes. She found a quiet corner and closed her eyes, one hand resting on her badge. The prayer came naturally, as it always did before operations like this. "Lord, protect us all tonight. Keep Rosa safe. Help us bring these women home." Her radio crackled to life. "All units, this is Control. Operation is a go. Repeat, Operation is a go." Claire opened her eyes, ready. She thought of Lily in her blue dress, of Rosa's trembling voice in the diner, of all the women waiting in darkness for someone to help them. This was why she became an agent. This was what justice looked like. She joined her team as they moved toward the waiting vehicles. Their boots echoed on the concrete floor, equipment rustling with each step. Through the garage doors, she could see the night sky, clear and star-filled. Miller caught her eye as they prepared to board the tactical van. "Ready, Matthews?" Claire checked her weapon one final time and nodded. "Ready, sir." She took her place in the van, surrounded by her fellow agents. As the vehicle rumbled to life, Claire said one last silent prayer, not for herself, but for all those they hoped to save tonight. The van pulled out into the darkness, carrying them toward whatever waited at the department store. Claire felt the familiar mix of anticipation and focus settle over her. Years of training and experience had prepared her for this moment. Now, It was time to act. The pre-dawn sky hung like a purple bruise over the warehouse district. Claire adjusted her bulletproof vest, the familiar weight both comforting and constraining. Around her, tactical teams moved into position with practiced silence, their boots barely whispering against the wet asphalt. "All units in position," crackled the radio at her shoulder. Claire took a deep breath, touching the small cross hanging from her neck. "Execute on my mark," she whispered into her comm unit. The warehouse loomed before them, its weathered walls hiding untold suffering. Rosa's frightened face flashed through Claire's mind, stealing her resolve. She raised her hand, then dropped it sharply. "Go, go, go!" The breach was swift and coordinated. Flashbangs erupted with controlled chaos, their brilliant light temporarily transforming night into day. Claire moved with her team through the loading dock, their weapons raised, flashlight beams cutting through the darkness. "FBI! On the ground!" The shouts echoed through the cavernous space as several men tried to flee. They didn't get far. Claire's colleagues took them down efficiently, the sound of zip ties clicking into place mixing with surprised curses. "Claire!" Agent Thompson's voice carried from deeper inside. "We found them!" She rushed forward, her heart pounding. A heavy metal door stood ajar, revealing a scene that made her stomach turn. A dozen women huddled together on thin mattresses, their eyes wide with fear and disbelief. The air was thick with the stench of unwashed bodies and despair. "It's okay," Claire said softly, holstering her weapon. "You're safe now. We're here to help." She repeated the words in Spanish, remembering the phrases Rosa had taught her. Among the faces, she spotted Rosa, curled in a corner. Their eyes met, and Rosa's filled with tears. Claire crossed the room quickly, kneeling beside her. "Rosa," she whispered, taking the young woman's trembling hands in hers. "I promised I'd protect you, remember?" Rosa nodded, her voice breaking. "You came. You really came." All around them, the rescue operation continued with controlled efficiency. Medical teams rushed in with blankets and preliminary care. FBI agents documented the scene, photographing evidence and gathering documents scattered across makeshift desks. Claire helped Rosa to her feet, supporting her as they made their way outside. The sun was rising now, painting the sky in hopeful shades of pink and gold. Emergency vehicles filled the lot, their lights casting alternating patterns of red and blue across Rosa's tear-stained face. "I need to tell you something," Rosa said, gripping Claire's arm. "The manager, Dalton, he knew everything. He helped them choose which ones to take." Claire's jaw tightened. "We know. We arrested him an hour ago at his home." She squeezed Rosa's hand. "He won't hurt anyone else." A paramedic approached with a blanket, wrapping it around Rosa's shoulders. Claire watched as more women emerged from the warehouse, each supported by an agent or medical professional. Their faces showed a mix of fear, relief, and cautious hope that made Claire's heart ache. 12 survivors rescued, Agent Thompson reported, appearing at her side. 5 traffickers in custody, including the warehouse supervisor. Evidence teams found detailed records. This is going to shut down their entire operation. Claire nodded, feeling a wave of relief wash over her. This was why she'd joined the FBI. Moments like this, when justice aligned with mercy, when the vulnerable found protection, when light pierced the darkness. Rosa was being led toward an ambulance for evaluation, but she turned back. "Agent Matthews?" Her voice was stronger now. "Thank you for believing me, for not looking away like everyone else did." Claire smiled, thinking of her daughter's unwavering faith in her. "That's what family does, Rosa. We look out for each other." The morning sun climbed higher, warming Claire's face as she watched the scene unfold. Medical personnel tended to the rescued women. Fellow agents secured evidence and processed suspects. It felt like a victory, clean and complete. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. Probably her neighbor checking in about Lily, she thought, reaching for it. But when she saw the screen, her blood turned to ice. The message was simple. "You can't save them all. Next time, we take her." Below the text was a photo that made her heart stop. Lily, in her favorite purple backpack, walking toward her school. The picture couldn't have been more than an hour old. Claire's fingers tightened around the phone, her moment of triumph shattering like glass. Her legs felt weak as she stared at the image of her daughter, caught in a stranger's lens, completely unaware of the threat now looming over her. The morning suddenly felt colder, darker. Despite the rising Sunday, the victory that had tasted so sweet moments ago turned bitter in her mouth. She looked up at Rosa, now safely wrapped in blankets and receiving medical attention, then back at the phone displaying her daughter's innocent face. The weight of her badge seemed heavier than ever before, as the line between protector and target, between professional duty and maternal fear, blurred dangerously before her eyes. Claire's hands trembled on the steering wheel as she raced through the morning traffic. Her FBI-issued SUV wove between cars with practiced precision, but her mind was a whirlwind of terror. The threatening message burned in her memory. A photo of her precious Lily walking to school, accompanied by those chilling words. Red light after red light forced her to brake, each stop making her heart pound harder. "Please, God," she whispered, her knuckles white on the wheel. "Keep her safe." The morning sun cast long shadows across the street as Claire finally pulled into the school parking lot. Parents were dropping off their children as usual, but nothing felt normal anymore. She grabbed her badge and practically leaped from the vehicle, her boots hitting the pavement with purpose. The school's main entrance never seemed so far away. Claire pushed through the glass doors, the cool air conditioning hitting her face as she rushed to the front office. Mrs. Henderson, the elderly secretary, looked up with surprise at Claire's urgent entrance. "Agent Matthews? Is everything— Where's Lily?" Claire cut in, trying to keep her voice steady despite her racing pulse. "She's in her classroom, but there was an incident," Mrs. Henderson began. Claire's breath caught. "What incident?" "A man was spotted watching the playground during morning recess. He left when our security guard approached, but—" Claire was already moving, her legs carrying her swiftly down the familiar hallway decorated with children's artwork. She passed the cafeteria where just last week she'd had lunch with Lily, sharing cookies and giggling about Lily's upcoming recital. Now, that memory felt like it belonged to another lifetime. Outside room 203, Claire paused to catch her breath. Through the narrow window in the door, she could see Miss Roberts teaching math. And there was Lily, safe in her desk by the window, pencil moving across her paper. The sight of her daughter, perfectly fine and focused on her schoolwork, made Claire's eyes well with tears of relief. She knocked softly, and Miss Roberts looked up, recognition flooding her face. The teacher quickly came to the door. "Agent Matthews," she whispered, stepping into the hall. "The principal called down about the security situation. We've kept all the children inside since recess." "Tell me everything about the man," Claire said, her FBI training kicking in even as her mother's heart ached. "Tall, dark jacket, baseball cap." "Jerry, our security guard," said the man was taking pictures with his phone. When confronted, he claimed to be a parent but couldn't provide any student's name. Claire's jaw clenched. They were sending a message, showing her they could get close to Lily whenever they wanted. Her daughter was just visible through the classroom window, now looking up curiously at her mother in the hallway. "I need to take her home," Claire said firmly. Miss Roberts nodded understanding. "Of course." "Should I?" "Please." The teacher returned to the classroom and quietly spoke to Lily, who gathered her things with a confused expression. When she emerged into the hallway, her face lit up despite her uncertainty. "Mommy, is everything okay?" Claire pulled Lily into a tight hug, breathing in the familiar scent of her strawberry shampoo. "Everything's fine, sweetheart. We're just going to go home a little early today." But first, Claire needed to make sure this wouldn't happen again. With Lily's hand firmly in hers, she made her way to the principal's office. Mr. Garcia was already on the phone with the district security office when they arrived. "Agent Matthews," he said, hanging up, "we're implementing immediate security changes. All exterior doors will remain locked during school hours, and we're adding another security guard specifically for the playground and parking lot areas." Claire nodded approval, but her mind was already racing through additional precautions. "I need a list of all authorized pickup persons updated. Nobody, and I mean nobody, gets near Lily without proper ID and verification, even if they claim to be law enforcement." "Of course," Mr. Garcia agreed quickly. "We'll put a special alert on her file, and we've already notified all staff about the incident." Lily squeezed her mother's hand. "Mom, did something bad happen?" Claire knelt down to her daughter's level, meeting those innocent eyes that held such trust. "Some people made Mommy worried, that's all. But you know what? You did exactly right today, staying with your teacher and classmates. I'm so proud of you." Lily's free hand reached up to touch Claire's cheek, a gesture so tender it nearly broke her composure. "Don't be scared, Mommy. You always say God watches over us, remember?" Claire pulled her daughter close again, fighting back tears. Over Lily's shoulder, she could see Mr. Garcia tactfully averting his eyes, giving them a moment of privacy. "That's right, baby. He does." Claire stood, keeping Lily's hand firmly in hers. "Mr. Garcia, I'll need copies of any security footage from this morning. Already being pulled for you, Agent Matthews, and I've contacted the police department to increase patrols around the school." Claire led Lily through the now quiet hallways, hyper-aware of every shadow, every reflection in the windows. In the parking lot, she scanned the area thoroughly before walking to their car. As she helped Lily with her seatbelt, she noticed her daughter's recital dress hanging in its plastic cover in the back seat, a reminder of how quickly their world had changed from simple mother-daughter shopping to this nightmare. Once inside the car, Claire double-checked all the locks before starting the engine. In the rearview mirror, she could see Lily watching her with worried eyes. "Mommy? Yes, sweetheart? Are the bad people from your work trying to scare us?" Claire's hands tightened on the steering wheel. Her daughter was too perceptive sometimes, too good at reading between the lines. "They might be, but you know what? They don't know who they're dealing with." She turned in her seat to look directly at Lily, her voice firm with conviction. "They'll never touch you. I promise you that. No one will ever hurt you while I'm here." Lily nodded solemnly, then gave a small smile. "I know, Mommy. You're the strongest person in the whole world." Claire felt tears prick her eyes again, but she blinked them away. She reached back to squeeze Lily's knee affectionately before turning around to drive. As they pulled away from the school, Claire's mind was already formulating plans. She would need to coordinate with her team, set up surveillance, maybe even arrange safe houses. But for now, her priority was getting Lily home and making sure her daughter felt secure. The traffickers had made a serious mistake in targeting Lily. They might have thought threatening her child would force Claire to back down, but they had miscalculated badly. They didn't understand that a mother's love wasn't a weakness to exploit. It was a force of nature that would destroy anything that threatened her child. Claire glanced again at Lily in the rearview mirror, watching her daughter hum softly while looking out the window, still somehow maintaining her innocent joy despite everything. She would protect that innocence with everything she had. The traffickers had no idea what they'd just awakened in her. Claire sat at her kitchen table, case files spread before her in the dim light of evening. Lily was already tucked into bed, sleeping peacefully after an exhausting day. The events at school had left them both drained, but Claire couldn't rest. Not yet. Not while the traffickers were still out there. She picked up her phone and dialed Rosa's number for the third time that evening. Something didn't feel right. Rosa always answered her calls, especially after they'd agreed to check in regularly for safety. The call went straight to voicemail again. "Rosa, it's Claire. Please call me back as soon as you get this." She tried to keep the worry from her voice, but it crept in anyway. The kitchen clock ticked loudly in the silence. 9:47 p.m. Claire drummed her fingers on the table, watching her phone. The rescue operation had struck a blow to the trafficking ring, but she knew better than to think it was over. These organizations had deep roots. At 10:13 p.m., her phone finally rang. Claire snatched it up, but instead of Rosa's caller ID, she saw an unfamiliar number. "Agent Matthews," she answered, professional instinct taking over. "Please, please help." A woman's voice, heavily accented and breathless with panic. "My sister, Rosa, they took her." Claire's blood ran cold. She grabbed a pen. "This is Maria, Rosa's sister? When? Tell me everything." Yes, Maria. I just got home from my shift. Rosa's apartment." Maria's voice broke with a sob. "Her door was open. Her things everywhere." Our neighbor saw men grab her outside, push her into a van. "Dark van," he said. "Please, you must help her." Claire was already moving, grabbing her jacket and gun holster. "Maria, I need you to stay calm. I'm coming right now. What's the address?" After getting the details, Claire called her neighbor Sarah, who agreed to come over and stay with Lily. Then she called her FBI team, requesting immediate backup to Rosa's apartment complex. The drive to Rosa's place was a blur of streetlights and silent prayers. Claire's mind raced through possibilities. The trafficking ring was retaliating, just as she'd feared. First, the threat against Lily. Now this. They were trying to silence Rosa, punish her for helping with the raid. When Claire pulled up to the apartment complex, Maria was waiting outside, wringing her hands. The woman looked so much like Rosa that Claire's heart clenched. Same delicate features, same worried eyes. "Agent Matthews!" Maria rushed forward. "The police are already here, but—" Claire nodded grimly. This wasn't just a local police matter anymore. She showed her badge to the officers on scene and quickly took charge of the investigation. Rosa's small one-bedroom apartment told a story of violence. A knocked-over lamp, scattered papers. A broken picture frame showing Rosa and Maria at a park, their arms around each other, smiling. Claire's trained eye took in every detail, noting the drag marks on the carpet leading to the door. In the kitchen, a pot of half-cooked rice sat on the stove, now cold. Rosa had been in the middle of making dinner when they came for her. Claire's jaw tightened as she pictured the scene. Rosa, alone and vulnerable, probably exhausted after a long day's work. Easy prey for men who specialized in taking advantage of the helpless. The neighbor who'd witnessed the abduction described a dark van, possibly navy blue, no plates visible. "They grabbed her so fast," he said, shaking his head. "I tried to run down, but by the time I got there—" Claire thanked him for the information, keeping her voice steady despite the rage building inside her. She coordinated with her team, setting up surveillance points and putting out alerts for the van. But she knew time was critical. Every minute that passed decreased their chances of finding Rosa alive. In Rosa's bedroom, Claire found signs of the life Rosa had been building for herself in America. A small cross hung on the wall, a few modest dresses in the closet, a framed certificate from English classes. And there, draped over a chair, a soft purple scarf. Claire recognized Rosa had worn it the day they first really talked, in that diner where she'd trusted Claire with her story. The weight of responsibility pressed down on Claire's shoulders. She'd promised to protect Rosa, promised that speaking up wouldn't put her in danger. Now Rosa was gone, snatched away by the very people she'd helped expose. Claire picked up the scarf, the soft fabric familiar between her fingers. The floral perfume Rosa always wore still clung to it faintly. Tears welled up in Claire's eyes, spilling over before she could stop them. "I'm so sorry, Rosa," she whispered, clutching the scarf. "But I swear I'll find you, whatever it takes." The tears streamed down her face as she stood in that small, empty room, holding the scarf like a lifeline. The night pressed in dark and heavy through the window, but Claire's determination burned brighter than ever. She would not let Rosa become another statistic, another disappeared woman whose story ended in shadows. She didn't know how yet, but she would bring Rosa home. Claire knelt on the worn carpet of her living room, her hands clasped tightly together. The soft glow of the table lamp cast long shadows across the walls, and Lily's gentle breathing from the couch provided a steady rhythm to break the silence. Her daughter had refused to sleep in her own room tonight, still shaken from the day's events at school. The weight of everything pressed down on Claire's shoulders. Rosa's disappearance felt like a personal failure. She'd promised to protect her, and now Claire squeezed her eyes shut, fighting back tears. "Dear God," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I need your guidance. Rosa trusted me, and I let her down. Please, help me find her." Her shoulders trembled as she continued her prayer. "Give me the strength to face whatever comes next. Keep Lily safe. Keep Rosa safe." The clock on the wall ticked steadily, marking each moment Rosa remained missing. Claire opened her eyes and looked at Lily's peaceful face, her daughter's new blue recital dress laid out carefully on the armchair nearby. Such innocence in the midst of such darkness. The contrast made Claire's heart ache. She reached for her coffee mug on the side table, but her hand froze mid-motion as memories of Rosa flooded back. The young woman's shy smile at the store, her trembling voice in the diner as she revealed the truth about the trafficking ring, the way she'd squeezed Claire's hand in gratitude after the warehouse raid. "I won't give up on you," Claire promised softly to the empty room. "Whatever it takes." Rising slowly from her knees, Claire's joints protested after kneeling so long. She grabbed her worn FBI jacket from the coat rack and draped it over Lily, tucking it around her sleeping form. The familiar weight of her badge in the pocket pressed against Lily's shoulder. A symbol of protection, even in sleep. Claire paced the living room, her sock-covered feet silent on the carpet. She'd already called Rosa's sister Maria 3 times, but each conversation only confirmed the horrible truth. Rosa had vanished without a trace outside her apartment building. The only evidence was her dropped scarf on the sidewalk and signs of a struggle. The coffee maker in the kitchen hummed to life. Claire had set it on a timer, knowing this would be a long night. The aroma drifted into the living room, mingling with the lingering scent of the chicken soup their elderly neighbor Mrs. Peterson had brought over earlier. The community's support wrapped around them like a warm blanket, even in these dark hours. Lily stirred on the couch, mumbling something in her sleep. Claire paused her pacing to smooth her daughter's hair back from her forehead. "It's okay, sweetheart," she whispered. "Mommy's here." The words caught in her throat. Was anyone offering that same comfort to Rosa right now? The thought sent a fresh wave of determination through Claire's tired body. She moved to the kitchen to pour herself a cup of coffee, her hands steady despite her exhaustion. The manila folder of case notes sat accusingly on the counter, but she'd already memorized every detail. The trafficking ring's patterns, their known associates, possible locations. None of it had led to Rosa yet. Back in the living room, Claire sank into her favorite armchair, positioning herself where she could watch both Lily and the front door. The coffee warmed her hands through the ceramic mug, but couldn't touch the cold fear in her heart. "Lord," she prayed again, this time silently, "show me the way." As if in answer, her phone buzzed on the coffee table. Claire lunged for it before the vibration could wake Lily, nearly spilling her coffee in the process. The number was blocked. Her heart pounding, Claire answered with a whispered, "Matthews." A distorted voice spoke quickly. "Agent Matthews, Rosa Alvarez, abandoned warehouse, Miller's Industrial Park, east side of town." Before Claire could respond, the line went dead. She stared at the phone, her hands trembling now. Miller's Industrial Park, N.I.T., she knew it well. A sprawling complex of old warehouses, most shut down when the economy turned south years ago. Perfect for hiding illegal operations. Claire's FBI training kicked in, analyzing the call. The voice had been deliberately disguised, but something about the cadence suggested someone familiar with law enforcement procedures. An insider? A conscience-stricken participant? It didn't matter. It was the first real lead they'd had. Setting her coffee aside, Claire pulled out her own phone and pulled up her team's contact information. Her fingers hovered over the screen as she glanced at Lily, still sleeping peacefully under the FBI jacket. The enormity of what lay ahead pressed down on her. Another dangerous operation, more lives at stake, her daughter's safety to consider. But Rosa's face floated in her mind's eye. The young woman who'd been brave enough to stand up against evil, who'd trusted Claire to protect her, who'd become like family in such a short time. Claire pressed the call button. The warehouse loomed against the night sky, a hulking shadow pierced by thin slivers of moonlight through broken windows. Claire adjusted her FBI tactical vest, the familiar weight of it somehow comforting. Around her, her team moved into position with practiced silence. "Remember," she whispered into her radio, "Rosa is our priority. We go in fast and clean." Her heart hammered against her ribs, but her hands remained steady on her weapon. Agent Thompson, her partner of 5 years, gave her a firm nod. "We've got your back, Matthews." At Claire's signal, the team breached the warehouse doors. The crash of metal against metal shattered the night silence. Claire led the charge through the entrance, her flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. The warehouse air hung thick with dust and the musty smell of abandonment. "FBI, drop your weapons." The shout echoed off concrete walls. Gunfire erupted from the shadows. Claire dove behind a stack of crates, splinters flying as bullets struck wood. Her training took over. Breathe, aim, respond. She returned fire, keeping the traffickers pinned while her team advanced. "Claire." Rosa's voice, weak but unmistakable, came from somewhere above. Claire's heart leaped. "Rosa, keep talking." More gunfire answered instead. Through her earpiece, she heard Thompson calling out positions. "2 hostiles down! 3 more, second level!" Working in sync, the team pushed forward. Claire spotted movement on the metal catwalk above, a figure dragging Rosa toward a back exit. The ringleader. Even in the dim light, she recognized him from their surveillance photos. "Thompson, cover me!" Claire sprinted for the stairs, taking them 2 at a time. Her boots rang against the metal steps. The ringleader spun, using Rosa as a shield. His face twisted into a sneer. Well, if it isn't the poor single mom-playing hero. He pressed his gun against Rosa's temple. How's that little girl of yours? Safe at home? The mention of Lily sent ice through Claire's veins, but she kept her weapon steady. Rosa's eyes were wide with fear, tears streaming down her bruised face. Let her go, Claire commanded, her voice firm despite the fury building inside her. It's over. Your operation is finished. He laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the warehouse. You think you understand anything? You're nothing, just like her. He jerked Rosa roughly. Just another desperate woman trying to prove something. Claire took a careful step forward. Below, she could hear her team securing the lower level. She just needed to keep him talking. You're wrong. I understand more than you know. I understand that people like you prey on the vulnerable because you're the weak ones. His face contorted with rage. Weak? He shoved Rosa aside, raising his weapon toward Claire. I'll show you weak. But Claire had been waiting for this moment. As Rosa stumbled away, Claire moved with the fluid precision of countless training hours. She knocked his arm up as he fired, the shot going wild. They grappled for control, his greater strength against her tactical expertise. Claire caught his wrist, twisting sharply. The gun clattered to the catwalk. He swung at her face, but she ducked, ramming her shoulder into his midsection. They crashed against the railing. You're under arrest, Claire grunted, fighting to maintain her grip as he thrashed. You think this changes anything? He spat. There will always be more like me, and there will always be more like me to stop you. Claire slammed him face, first against the railing, finally getting his arms behind his back. The warehouse filled with the sound of approaching sirens and police radio chatter. Local units flooded in, their flashlight beams crisscrossing the space. Claire snapped her handcuffs onto the ringleader's wrists with fierce satisfaction. As other agents took custody of him, Claire rushed to Rosa, who had collapsed against the catwalk railing. She gathered the young woman into her arms, feeling her shake with sobs. I knew you'd come, Rosa whispered against Claire's shoulder. I kept praying you'd find me. Claire held her tighter, her own eyes filling with tears. I promised I'd protect you, remember? And I keep my promises. The warehouse buzzed with activity now. Officers securing suspects, medics treating the injured, evidence teams beginning their work. But up on the catwalk, Claire simply held Rosa, both women drawing strength from each other's presence. It's really over? Rosa asked, pulling back slightly to look at Claire. Claire brushed Rosa's hair from her face with gentle fingers. Yes, it's over. You're safe now. She helped Rosa to her feet, supporting her as they made their way toward the stairs. Let's get you checked out by the medics. Thompson met them at the bottom of the stairs, relief evident on his face. Good work, Matthews. He gestured to where police officers were leading the handcuffed ringleader toward a waiting car. We found documents in his office. This bust will shut down trafficking operations in 3 states. Claire nodded, but her focus remained on Rosa. As they walked toward the waiting ambulance, the young woman leaned heavily against her. Thank you, Rosa murmured, for believing in me, for not giving up. That's what family does, Claire replied softly. And your family now. The night air felt cleaner somehow as they emerged from the warehouse. Emergency lights painted the scene in alternating red and blue, but Claire noticed the first hints of dawn breaking on the horizon. A new day was coming, bringing with it the promise of justice, healing, and hope. The federal courthouse buzzed with tension as Claire sat in the front row of the gallery, her posture rigid but determined. Beside her, Rosa clutched a tissue, her eyes fixed on the judge's bench. The trafficking ringleader and his associates stood before the court, their designer suits unable to mask their defeat. In light of the overwhelming evidence, the judge declared, her voice carrying through the hushed courtroom, this court finds the defendants guilty on all counts of human trafficking, forced labor, and criminal conspiracy. Rosa's hand found Claire's and squeezed tight. Tears rolled down her cheeks, but these were different from the tears of fear she'd shed in that warehouse. These were tears of relief, of justice, finally served. As the bailiff led the criminals away, the prosecutor approached with a thick folder. Miss Alvarez, she said warmly to Rosa, we've expedited your application for protective status. Given your cooperation and the circumstances, it's been approved. Rosa pressed her hand to her mouth, overwhelmed. I can stay? My family will be safe? Yes, Claire assured her, wrapping an arm around the young woman's shoulders. You can build a new life now. All of you can." The courthouse steps were crowded with reporters when they emerged. Camera flashes popped like lightning as Mr. Dalton, the former store manager, was led out in handcuffs. His arrogance had crumbled into something small and pathetic. "Mr. Dalton," a reporter called out, "how do you respond to charges that you helped facilitate human trafficking through your store?" Dalton kept his head down, but Claire caught his eye for just a moment. There was no satisfaction in his downfall, only relief that he could no longer hurt people like Rosa. 2 weeks later, Claire stood in front of the department store, barely recognizing it. Gone were the harsh fluorescent lights and uninviting atmosphere. Warm sunshine streamed through clean windows, and a "now hiring fair wages benefits" banner stretched across the entrance. "Mom, look." Lily tugged at her hand, pointing to a familiar face through the window. Rosa, wearing a supervisor's badge, was training new employees at the register. Her smile was bright and confident, nothing like the fearful young woman Claire had first met. Inside, the store hummed with positive energy. Employees greeted customers warmly, regardless of how they were dressed. Claire noticed several of the rescued women working there, their heads held high as they went about their duties. "Claire," Rosa called out, hurrying over to embrace her. "And Lily, how beautiful you look in your recital dress." Lily twirled, the blue fabric swishing around her ankles. "Rosa, guess what? I got the lead part in the school play." "Of course you did, mi Angelita," Rosa beamed. She turned to Claire, her eyes shining. "The new owners are amazing. They've hired many of the women from the shelter, provided training, even help with English classes. And look," she proudly displayed her supervisor badge. "They said my experience and leadership qualities made me perfect for the position." Claire felt warmth spread through her chest. "You deserve every bit of it, Rosa. How's your family settling in? My sister starts college next month. Can you believe it? And Mama's cooking is so popular at the cafeteria, they made her head chef." Rosa's voice cracked with joy. "We are living the dream we came here for thanks to you." "No," Claire shook her head. "You did this. Your courage made it all possible." A young woman approached Rosa with a question about inventory, and Claire watched as Rosa confidently guided her through the process. The same store that had once been a place of humiliation and darkness now shone with hope and dignity. "Mom," Lily whispered, tugging Claire's sleeve, "can we get ice cream to celebrate?" Claire laughed, her heart full. "Of course, sweetheart. Rosa, would you like to join us after your shift?" "I'd love to," Rosa replied, then added with a playful wink, "and this time, everyone pays full price. No more special manager's discounts for certain customers." They all laughed, the sound echoing through the bright, welcoming store. Claire watched as Rosa returned to her duties, remembered the terrified young woman who had slipped her that warning so many months ago. Now Rosa stood tall, helping to create the very safety and fairness she had once only dreamed of. A customer walked in, a tired-looking mother with 2 small children, wearing worn clothes similar to what Claire had worn that fateful day. Rosa immediately went to help them, treating them with the same warmth and respect she showed everyone. "Welcome," Rosa's voice carried across the store. "How can we help you today?" Claire squeezed Lily's hand, grateful for the reminder that sometimes the greatest victories come not just from dramatic rescues, but from simple human dignity restored, one person at a time. Claire's hands moved with gentle precision as she fastened the last button on Lily's blue dress. The fabric sparkled softly under the bedroom light, reminding her of that day in the department store that now felt like a lifetime ago. Standing back, she felt her breath catch at the sight of her daughter. "You look beautiful, sweetheart," Claire whispered, smoothing a stray strand of Lily's hair. Lily twirled in front of the mirror, the dress spinning out like a flower in bloom. "It's still perfect, Mom, just like when we bought it." Her smile dimmed slightly. Even after everything that happened that day, Claire knelt beside her daughter, meeting her eyes in the mirror. Sometimes the hardest moments lead us to exactly where we need to be. Look at all the good that came from that day. Rosa is safe. Other people were helped, and you're about to sing your heart out. In the living room, Rosa waited with a small bouquet of daisies. Since the rescue, she'd become like family, spending many evenings with them as she adjusted to her new life. She gasped when Lily emerged from the bedroom. "Kay Linda, you look like an angel!" Lily rushed to hug her. "You're coming to hear me sing, right? Wouldn't miss it for anything," Rosa assured her, shooting Claire a warm smile over Lily's head. The drive to the school was filled with Lily's excited chatter about the songs and her friends in the choir. Claire watched her daughter in the rearview mirror, marveling at her resilience. The threats, the fear, the darkness of the past weeks, none of it had dimmed Lily's light. The school parking lot was already filling up when they arrived. Parents clutched programs and flowers, shepherding excited children in their best clothes toward the auditorium entrance. Claire recognized several faces from church, including Martha Wilson, who had brought meals during the investigation and prayed with Claire during the darkest moments. "Claire! Rosa!" Martha waved them over, her silver hair catching the early evening light. "We saved you seats in the 4th row." Inside, the auditorium hummed with pre-performance energy. Claire hugged Lily tight before letting her join the other children backstage. "Remember, sweetie, just like we practiced, you'll be amazing." "I know, Mom," Lily said with quiet confidence. "God's got this right?" Claire's throat tightened with emotion. "Right, baby. He sure does." Finding their seats, Claire settled between Rosa and Martha. The program crinkled in her hands as she opened it, finding Lily's name among the list of young performers. So much had changed since they'd first bought the dress for this night. The store where it all began was transformed. Rosa now supervised a team of properly paid workers, all treated with dignity. The trafficking ring was dismantled, its victims finding healing and new beginnings. Even Mr. Dalton's public disgrace had led to something positive, a community-wide conversation about treating others with respect. The lights dimmed, and a hush fell over the audience. The curtain rose to reveal rows of children in their finest clothes, faces glowing with anticipation. Claire spotted Lily immediately. Her blue dress seemed to catch every bit of stage lighting, making her shine. The first notes of music filled the air, and young voices rose in harmony. Claire felt tears welling up as Lily's clear, sweet voice carried above the others during her solo part. The song was about hope and new mornings, about light breaking through darkness. How fitting, Claire thought, remembering her own prayers in the depths of fear and uncertainty. Rosa squeezed her hand, and Claire turned to see tears in her friend's eyes too. They'd both walked through fire and emerged stronger. Martha reached for Claire's other hand, completing the circle of support that had helped carry her through. As Lily sang, Claire's mind drifted to that morning in the department store. The sting of humiliation, the flash of her badge, the beginning of a journey she never could have predicted. She remembered Rosa's first whispered warning, the terrifying threats, the desperate prayers, and finally, the triumph of justice. But more than justice had come from those dark days. Something beautiful had grown, a deeper faith, stronger bonds of community, and healing that reached far beyond herself. The frightened women from the warehouse were rebuilding their lives. Rosa had found her voice and her strength. And Lily. Claire watched her daughter shine on stage, untouched by bitterness, radiating joy. The final song began, a prayer for peace set to music. Claire closed her eyes, letting the children's voices wash over her. She thought of all the prayers that had led to this moment. Desperate prayers in the dark, quiet prayers of thanksgiving, the collective prayers of her church family. Each one had been answered, though rarely in the ways she'd expected. Silent tears slipped down her cheeks as gratitude overwhelmed her. She held tighter to Rosa's and Martha's hands, these women who represented the unexpected blessings that had bloomed from adversity. Her whispered prayer of thanks joined the music floating through the auditorium. Thanks for protection, for justice, for healing, and for the pure joy shining from her daughter's face as she sang. Lily's voice soared with the final notes, strong and clear and unafraid. In that moment, Claire saw the truth of what she'd always taught her daughter, that faith could move mountains, that love was stronger than fear, and that God could turn even the deepest humiliation into triumph. There in the warm embrace of community, watching her daughter sing of hope and new beginnings, Claire smiled serenely. The journey had been hard, but every step had led them here, to this moment of perfect peace, surrounded by love, safe in the knowledge that the future was bright with promise. What would you do if you were in their place? Comment your answer below and let's see how you'd rewrite the ending. If you enjoyed the story of Claire Matthews, I handpicked the next story that you will enjoy. Please, don't miss this one. Click here to watch it.